4 people have entered the waiting room. See waiting room?
Yeah.
Yep, so let them in.
Yep.
Hello, Jim.
Good afternoon.
How you doing, Jim?
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing?
Oh, we're just doing wonderful.
Well, that's the way to be.
Not doing any good to complain. Nobody listens anyway.
Well, then we'd have to tell you our things. All right. Well, I'm looking here trying to let people in
Okay.
as we go, so it's hard not to be distracted.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
It's good to see you all.
Good to see you.
All right. We got more and more coming.
Trying to be part of these calls for a while. It's the first one I've actually managed to meet without having to go back and see it on YouTube.
All right. Glad you could join us then live.
That's right.
I noticed you already had it on YouTube as far as just the painting part, but you didn't have any sound with it. So that I need to hear the sound.
Well, we don't have the music version up yet. And in fact, I'm not sure what you're looking at on the YouTube version, because we were just, maybe that you caught it as we were fooling with it.
Yeah. It was 7 minutes long, and it was just a sped up painting with labels. It might be what you're going to show today, for all I know.
It probably is. I think it is. I guess you found it online somewhere while it
on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I guess I didn't know it'd been published yet.
all you have to do is subscribe to Titan Train's YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and as soon as it pops up, you can see it.
Well, I guess all the working versions are out there. We might have to look at making sure the working versions are taken down, because sometimes we have to upload them to look at them in real time.
Also, you got a request from JB Kaysen for a quote for Houston area live steamers. We're looking forward to see that.
Oh yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, we want to see that.
All right. Well, I understand you got a meet going on now. Is that correct?
Yes, but I like to go in the mornings when it's cool. It's in the 80s and sunny now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to get the quote to him by tomorrow morning. So bug him tomorrow morning. It'll be there.
Thank you. We will.
All right.
He won't.
Mm-hmm.
He won't join a Zoom meeting. He hates Zoom.
I know.
That's why he drives clear to see you.
I know.
At least you're lucky to have a meet.
There you go.
Yeah. Over here in the East Coast, all these crazy governors are keeping us from doing anything.
Yeah, but see, we have a Republican governor. He just makes you wear a mask. He doesn't make you cancel the event.
Oh, well, we won't go into politics, I'll tell you. These idiots we've got over here are something else.
Mm-hmm.
But see, we're outside. We close off the inside. You have to stay outside.
Well, all our trains are outside, but it's just, let's not get into politics.
Well, there are a lot of clubs that are sort of quietly having meets, just no public in them, just members, and they're sort of quietly doing it, as I understand. But there are some going on and have been. So.
Eagle Point, we just had one a few weeks ago. It was our Big Fall Run, which was very well attended. A lot of great steamers there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I wish I could have been there. I had to be somewhere else, but I would have liked to have been there.
Yeah, the steam days were complete.
Mm-hmm.
I think we held about 1,000 people in September and about 700 in October at
Really?
Mid-South.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us where that is, Dwight, so everyone knows. Mid-South.
Mid-South at Columbia, Tennessee, Murray County Park.
There you go. Put in a plug there.
Maybe I'll have to move out of New Jersey.
We had a good time. We wore masks, but a lot of the people that was riding didn't wear a mask and didn't want to hear it. So we just rode them.
Ron, I think you're going to have to ask them to let you come from New Jersey if you want to go to Tennessee there.
We put extra cars between us and the passengers.
Uh-huh. Well, that works. That sounds good. All right, we're going to keep chatting here for a little bit longer before we get into things. We're letting people in. And it's good just chatting, see what's going on across the country, because looking at everything, I'm seeing a pretty good representation throughout the country here.
How you doing, Jim?
Good. How are you doing?
All right.
Good to have you on here.
Jim, are you having any trouble with the bells by any chance?
With the what?
The bells.
No. What kind of trouble?
The GP30, the bell sounds like it's not getting enough voltage for some reason. I've got to pull it apart and see if there's a loose connection somewhere.
I doubt it's a voltage issue. It's probably the plunger might be sticking or not striking the bell just right. Which sometimes
take the thing apart and do some house cleaning.
I mean, look at it and see what it does if the plunger is sticking. Okay.
Yeah, the biggest problem is I can't do it myself. I've got to wait till I get a couple of bodies there. The cover on the GP30 is not a one-person lift.
Right. Well, the bell housing, they really don't want you fooling with it. So you got to be careful in fooling with it and putting it back. But in some cases, the little plunger strikes a little bit towards the edge and sometimes gets hung up. Or maybe some trash has gotten down in it and it's sticky or something.
Yeah, well, last winter we had some four-legged visitors anyway in a lot of the equipment. Okay,
well, in general, these are industrial bells. I mean, they're not cheap bells by any means. So they work, and they work a long time, but sometimes they need to be realigned.
Yeah, well, I won't tie you up with that. It's something I just got to look at. That's all.
Well, David, there's one thing that you should know. We had that same situation at Los Angeles Live Steamers, and we had to turn the bell upside down. It allowed, just turn the bell upside down.
Well, you've got to be careful about that because the plunger does not have a spring return.
Right.
On the bells that we use, it's a gravity return.
Right.
And it won't go back.
Okay.
Now, speaking of winterizing or rodents getting in, that is something to be concerned about. It's good to, when you're going to winter for the season, to put something, take the body off, put something around the chassis that you think deters mice. And there's all kinds of
mothballs,
home remedies from mothballs to dryer sheets to peppermint oil. It's hard to recommend anything because a lot of things aren't recommended, but give it your best shot. Something is better than nothing. Also put fuel stabilizer treatment in your gas tank, and then make sure you run it through the system and into the carburetor. So you run your locomotive about 10 minutes, and then your fuel will stay fresh for the season.
Well, I always use fuel stabilizer and high test gas anyway.
Yep, and those are good things. Also, fill the tank full.
Full, so you don't get condensation.
Yep, keeps the condensation down.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I found that.
Use non-ethanol gasoline to start with, so you don't have to worry about it gumming up so badly.
Right, that helps.
You can, at least in Texas, go to you can go to Buc-ee's and get 92 octane no ethanol gasoline, and that really, really helps.
Yep, it does help a lot to use that. There are a lot of people who are stuck using the ethanol gasoline, and it still works. but it's always best to put in this fuel treatment, some kind of fuel treatment. Everything will just be better if you do. Any other thoughts out there? We've got good discussion going on here before we look at our painting presentation. We're kind of letting people in as we go here. So
I had to run away, but did you say anything about keeping the tank full over the winter?
Well, no, we gave away $100 when you went away.
Well, well, that's my luck. Anyway, the best thing to do is keep the tank full, and that way it keeps the condensation down.
Correct, and we did make mention of that, and that helps a lot. Use fuel stabilizing treatment, and run it through the gas system and into the carburetor and engine, and keep the fuel lines full, or the gas tank full.
I crank mine up and let them run once or twice a month.
And that's even best if you can do that.
So Jim, on the adding stabilizer on your system, you have that hose that goes into the gas into the gas tank.
Yes.
There's a brass connector on the end of it.
Yep.
Does that come off?
Well, it can. It's just a hose barb that attaches that to the fuel line hose. One thing you can do is to the gas can that you're coming out of, add the stabilizer to that, that you're filling up your gas can with, or your gas tank with, gotcha. and that'll help.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
If need be, you can take off that hose, because it's just a hose clamp and barb, and just suck right out of the bottle a little bit. Generally speaking, you cannot use too much fuel stabilizer. It will not hurt things.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we just had to do that with the club engines the other day, and I came up to that beautiful engine that we got from you, and I have to admit that I had to scratch my head for a little bit. I had the can of stabilizer in my hand and didn't have any additional gas.
Yeah.
And I sat there and went, can I stick this down inside that can? Of course I couldn't, but.
That's right.
Jim, another good stabilizer is 2-cycle oil.
Is it?
Yes. If you put that in there, it keeps your gas more stable during the winter.
That's a good one.
Well,
I put a couple ounces in each of my engines.
Well, I know I as the manufacturer, I recommend sort of a fuel stabilizer. In particular, I recommend we have a local company that makes Liquid Performance that makes ethanol equalizer, which we put in with each locomotive we send out, a little maintenance bucket now, and it's good stuff, and it's just highly recommended. It's a good practice to get in. So, all right, well, I think we're going to go ahead and start our little session on how we paint. This is all about how we paint here at Titan Trains, and what we go through. It's pretty extensive in a way. It might look kind of simple, but it's pretty extensive. We use professional equipment. We're fortunate that we have a paint booth, air compressors, spray gun, automotive spray guns. We use automotive quality paints that we buy direct from automotive paint suppliers. It's a base coat, clear coat system that we use, which is virtually the same thing that's on your automobile now. And this is what we've been using for years. So what we'll go through is our overall process, and I'll talk a little bit. And you're, I think, welcome to ask questions, and I'll try to answer along the way.
How did you add the metallic flaking? That was
that?
That metallic stuff that you see on the cars now. Like blue metallic as opposed to just blue.
Well, on all kinds of paints, every kind of paint is available. And sometimes if a customer specifies metallic, we can handle that. Fortunately for us, for the most part, all of our colors come down to pretty standard colors. And we have a range of standard railroad colors. But on occasion, we do end up doing some very custom jobs with very custom paint, from golds and reds and blues. I mean, it gets pretty intense sometimes. All right, here we go. We're gonna
Jim, do you have a standard ratio for your paint, like 14:1, and hardeners and things like that?
Well, we do, but it's all dependent on the paint product and the paint manufacturer.
Gotcha.
So that sort of information we're not given to because our process is what we do. And
Gotcha.
for someone else it's really not something that the home person can duplicate unless they're used to professional painting. Now we're glad to share everything or specifics, but yes, there are ratios for the paint. There are specific hardeners and reducers you use depending on the temperature that you're painting. There are certain paint practices depending on the colors you're painting, as far as so that you can get the true colors that you're looking to get, especially when you're doing multiple tone colors. And so it is quite involved on the paint process, but in the simplest form, many people can very successfully paint their equipment, especially the train cars, with a spray can where you buy spray paint from Lowe's or something. It's not going to be as durable. The finish probably is not going to be the same, but it will get you by. While our paint process or painting might seem expensive on our product line, I mean, it is quite extensive what we do. We're also using quality automotive paints. For instance, the average gallon of paint costs $400. Now, fortunately, we're only using a fraction of that, but then we're also using reducers and hardeners, and then the clear coat that goes on top of everything, along with the primer, in the first step. So it is quite expensive on the materials we use and the upkeep on the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So here we'll go ahead and go through our process and get going here. And I have my technical advisor helping me. He's sitting beside me. He's off to the side. So far, so good.
Well, my Zoom has just gone strange on me.
Uh-oh. Well, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Away we go. This is our painting process. Starts with the assembled, the whole body completely assembled. And now we're getting ready to go into paint. And we start prepping all the parts that are on it, from the roof, in this case, the foot pegs for the caboose. We disassemble certain assemblies, in this case, the platforms and ladder assemblies on the caboose. We scuff everything with a fine Scotch-Brite pad. Even though our process is sanded and cleaned and scuffed everything, we do it again right before painting to get the surface crystals off. Lots of cleaning. Clean with alcohol. Everything can clean with alcohol. Plastic, ABS plastic, and the aluminum and steel, all with alcohol. That's a great cleaner. Do it multiple times. We use a self-etching primer. It's sort of like a primer wash. That gives you an idea of what it looks like. Comes in a gallon and it has a special hardener. We have to do all of the parts, all the sub-assemblies. And at this part, we can do a lot of the parts in place. We can do a lot of them in the paint booth. We have a nice little turn style gimbal, rotator for the cars, so we can paint at all angles, to get all the nooks and crannies and do a good job. Things like roofs and platforms get hung or laid out And this picture is just showing you a still version of what we're going through. You know, there is a process, a special process of how we start and how we go through and how we finish. Here it is, looks like all of the self-etching primer has been applied. Now we're going to start on the color coats. In this case, we're spraying silver on the ends of this engineer car. Doesn't look very silvery yet, but it is becoming silver. Silver's a little tough to spray, so it does take multiple coats, like most all of these paints do. The silver takes multiple coats at various angles. And it helps, you know, we do painting every week. We're painting something, multiple cars or locomotives virtually every week. We're running through the paint booth. Now here we are, and that's how fast the guy is, by the way. He's pretty quick, so you got to watch him fast. You know, in between. So you got to let things dry, then you do some more. We paint, it's hard to see, but we painted the platforms black. He's painting the caboose roof red. And we're going through the multiple steps here. Of course, the filter system is sucking, the exhaust system sucking the fumes away from the painted parts, so we don't get overspray, because it's a 36-inch high-speed fan that's exhausting the paint booth. It's a lot of volume running through there. So there's a painted, the top coat color is on the roof. Now on the train car where we painted the silver, we're taping it off. And this is a simple tape job compared to some of them that we do, where we're taping off the ends so that we can spray the rest of the car yellow. And here we are spraying the yellow, the top coat, which is the base part of the base coat, clear coat. We're spraying the base coat with tack cloth in between. You know, and on everything we do, there's a lot of tack cloth and a lot of dust mitigation. We've applied all of the color. Everything's got good color on it at this point with multiple coats. Now we're spraying the clear coat. So all the parts go in the paint booth and we start spraying. It does take a little while to do all of this because you have to, in the case of roofs, you're doing the underside, then you're flipping it over. But the train cars, you tend to get going and keep going, but it also does take multiple clear coat coats to get a good job. One thing to keep in mind, we can use a flattener so that the train car is not as shiny, but a lot of people like a shiny brand new train car. As we're waiting for that to dry, we're polyurethaning the floors or decks of the cars to seal them up, you know, to keep them weatherproof them. Now here we are, we've, you know, everything's painted, it's drying and cured for many hours. And now we start the reassembly process where we're putting things like the platforms and rails and grab irons back on. You know, it's quite involved, you know, quite time consuming, but this is how you get a good paint job in some instances where you do have to do some disassembly. Now laying out the graphics, getting an idea of how they go, and they usually get me to okay it. And then they finalize them and start applying them. It is a technique to apply graphics, but a lot of people can apply graphics on their own once you get the hang of it. And there's the finished bay window Union Pacific, this version of a bay window caboose, Union Pacific, all assembled, now getting ready for trucks and couplers. And now it's got trucks and couplers and it's complete. We consider this done. In some cases, there might be brake lines or something else added, but usually at this point, we're mostly complete with the train car, preparing the crate, getting it ready to ship. In the case of the other car that was in there, which was an engineer car, we're now attaching the floor and starting to attach the seat and whatever other parts on it, along with the graphics. and applying them. And you can see how that silver on the end, which didn't look very silvery before, really is very silvery now in the proper light.
Do you heat the decals to make them settle around the rivets?
On occasion. It all depends on what's going on. Sometimes we actually take out rivets. Sometimes if it's a drive screw, we don't take out any structural rivets, but sometimes we do have to take out something or use heat to go around something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we appreciate you looking. Now we're going to get back to us looking at each other.
All right.
Where? Stop share. All right. There we go. Now we're back. So what'd you think? Any questions? Thoughts?
So what's your drying time once you put down the etching primer?
Mm-hmm.
Drying time before you start laying any other color on top of the etching primer?
With the drying times, because this is automotive paint and production automotive paint, the dry times are pretty quick on most everything.
Mm-hmm.
The self-etching primer, usually give it about 30 minutes after your last coat, and then you start spraying the base coat, the color coat. The color coat, in this case, dries after your last spray in about 30 minutes so that you can start taping it and working it. That's an important key difference with using the base coat clear coat, is that a person can work with it quickly and successfully compared to enamels and acrylic enamels from the past, where you had to let everything dry for a long time. And I mean days to a week before you could really work with it in color separations. Mm-hmm. So once we put all the color on and then put the clear coat on, the clear coat is what we have to not handle for a good 5 to 10 hours, depending on the humidity level and the heat level, temperature, before we start touching it or even moving it out of the paint booth. It is one thing that holds up the paint booth is the clear coating. So we tend to try to clear coat late in the day so it can sit overnight, and then we come back in the morning and can clear out the paint booth and start the next project. Also, before we put on graphics, we do generally let the clear coat dry for 24 hours approximately, so that we will not have any problem in case we're trying to pull up a graphic and reapply it for some reason.
Does are you heating your paint booth?
We are heating the whole plant that we have. Our whole shop is heated. We do have a special air makeup heater that in the wintertime is heating the air to a predetermined temperature as it's sucking it from outside to replace the air that we're blowing from the paint, blowing out of the paint booth. I can tell you that if you turn the paint booth on and we close all of the doors and do not have the air makeup heater on, it is very hard to open a door. That is the kind of suction, even in our 15,000 square foot plant, that this paint booth is producing. And, you know, exhausting and moving air. And moving air is a key component when you're painting, trying to keep dust and things off of it. Filtering the air is important, but moving the air is important because now the particles want to move around, quickly around and away and get to the source of getting out of the paint booth, you know, the suction.
Hey, Jim, this is Pete Hott. I have 2 comments.
Yes, sir.
We have a auto refinish shop in Rochester here that custom mixes paints for the body shops.
Yeah.
So I go up there and, you know, had them mix up Pensy Tuscan Red for me to a color chip, which they match perfectly. Yep. And for $10, they put it in a spray can. So when I did the flat cars, my engineer's car and stuff, one spray can was enough for 2 coats on the body. And then I did a spray can of clear coat.
Well, you did pretty good. I can say that I am familiar with what you're talking about. We tried to have that available ourselves probably 10 years ago, but our local supplier stopped canning the paint in an aerosol form. It was not practical. So there are some across the country that will do that. And you can get the professional paint.
Yeah, now this is regular automotive paint that he mixed up for me.
Right, it is.
The 2 hopper cars I just did, they were too big to bother with a spray can, so I had a compressor and I picked up a spray gun. And he mixed up the right color Pensy freight red for me.
Yeah.
With no problem. But the clear coat was a different brand than what was in the spray can. And I had to use it in the spray gun. But the product spec sheet for that required that I apply the clear coat anywhere from 30 minutes to no more than 4 hours after the last base coat to get a good bond between the clear coat and the base coat. So you got to read the product spec sheets pretty close, depending on the brands you're using.
That's right. And what I'm presenting here today, this little video, really is showing you what we do. It's not a tutorial on how to paint for our customers to paint, because for us to tell you how to paint, it's a whole different ball game than what we do in a manufacturing setting. Now we can approach that some other time, maybe, how the customers paint on their own. But in a way, we're showing what we do and a little bit of, why it's expensive and what we go through. Yet it is a, good job and a quality job, and it sticks real well as we do it. One note on color matching. A lot of people think that paints tend to have a color code and it's easy to go places and get that. Well, it's not. Our paints are custom mix, like Pete mentioned, Pennsylvania Tuscan Red. That's a unique color. And we have it custom mixed for us and under a specification, and they can duplicate that specification, but what they can't do is just hand out the formula to someone else unless they're using the exact same brand, an exact same spec paint, somewhere else. And that tends to be more difficult than what it sounds. So it's not a color chip where you say it's XYZ 1, 2, 3, and anyone can do it, unfortunately. The colors do tend to be specific. And in Pete's case, he's correct. A good automotive paint supplier will custom match a color sample. And a color sample can be anything from a piece of paper to something sprayed on metal. They generally can do a very good job and make their own formula to come up with it. That is an accepted standard throughout the country. Anything else?
Hey, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Boy, I'm really impressed with your setup and your operation there and your process.
Well, thank you.
Most of the cars I've ever done, I've just rattle canned them.
Yeah, so you have a little appreciation of what we're doing.
Oh, definitely, definitely. My buddy and I, we just bought a couple of those precision steel car, stock cars. And as a matter of fact, we're thinking right now how we're going to paint them.
Right.
So
well, cars like that, you can paint, with a spray can successfully, or get some automotive spray equipment, or you can powder coat them. We can't powder coat because we have aluminum and plastic parts in some of it. The aluminum would hold up, but generally speaking, a lot of what we do is multicolor. A majority of what we do is multicolor and has things taped off to where powder coating is. You cannot have multicolor colors applied to the car. You can do a wonderful green or a wonderful whatever, but you can't do 2 or 3 tone paints. Also, usually limited the color selection in powder coats. And powder coat is accepted as a very good and durable paint, and it is, but I also want to impress upon everyone how very good the base coat, clear coat type of paint that we use, the automotive stuff, is just as durable and professional looking.
Yeah, another option that I had considered was we live in an area where our school systems have a BOCES program for the trades.
Yes.
And they have a pretty good automotive program that includes painting and detailing. So I was considering at one point approaching them, but with the COVID situation right now, the schools are in a little bit of turmoil.
Yeah, they may or may not be amicable to it, because my experience with with those types of situations and schooling situations is they're trying to teach real life practices on real life products, and while they will those classes will see a car again, they'll probably never see a train again. But it is so it all depends on the teachers and the situation.
Right, you got to approach and ask.
Yeah, again, you know, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Hey Jim, I painted my engine SW1500. There are 7 coats of paint on it.
Yeah.
One of the things that that I think is somebody should give a medal out to is the people that do the masking. The painting, I got to tell you, 1, 2, 3, boom, you got a spray can or a compressor and a spray gun, and you can do that. But the masking took me hours and hours and hours to get everything ready. But
well, glad you appreciate it.
It's incredible. Masking is the key.
And in some cases, we are masking the lettering on the side of a train car or a locomotive, where every, you know, the whole word, and it could be something like Pennsylvania, which is paint on the side over detail. And there are several locomotives where we have 40 hours of man hours of paint time and masking time in. The painting gets the glory. It's all the prep work that takes forever.
Yeah, Jim built me a -9 in the Pensy scheme, you know, the NS Heritage scheme, and sent me some pictures of them doing the masking across all the doors, you know, with the 5 stripes and everything. It really is an intricate process.
Yeah, we're still in therapy because of that.
I get a lot of very positive comments on that engine. So thank you for the effort.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Yeah, one of my base colors on the SW1500 is it's the BNSF Heritage paint scheme. So the base color is orange.
Okay.
And I had a couple of guys come down to the maintenance bay where I was doing it, and they kept on coming up to me and saying, "No, we've never seen an SW1500 orange." And just kind of looked at them and I went, "Why don't you come back in a couple of weeks when we do the other 6 or 7 layers of paint on this thing?"
Yeah.
But it's always the getting those base colors down so you can do additional masking. It's just amazing, and how difficult it is. And I applaud the guy that was in that movie doing his masking. I was just going, now there is a real art to it.
Well, thank you. And we showed you the easy stuff. Sometimes when we post pictures, now you can look at and probably appreciate some of the effort gone through on some of the paint we call it paint masking, you know, when it's something like letters or the locomotive numbers, and in some cases heralds on the side. And these new heritage locomotives that railroads are using they are spectacular looking.
Yeah, but they're hard to paint.
Spectacularly difficult to do. But
yeah.
Once you're done with the effort, I mean, it's along with everything, it's another showpiece.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the engine that you're building for Jeff.
Oh yeah, that's one that we got coming up on our radar here real soon.
Yeah, if I'm just waiting to see what you're going to be doing paint wise, what's going to be decaling wise. I mean,
it's mostly paint. It's mostly paint.
Really. Yes. Wow. I can't describe it to anybody here because I don't know what the engine is, but it's the most beautiful layout of not decaling, paint masking that I've ever seen. It's really terrific.
Yeah,
ever tried the Connie Miracle masks?
Yeah, all of the graphics that we do, we work with Connie Miracle on all of our graphics. And
right, but you're using the vinyl graphics. What about where she makes the reverse, masked, and then you literally paint the lettering?
Right, that's what I'm talking about in terms of a paint mask, where we're painting the letters and we're putting, in a sense, the reverse of it or the cutout.
I misunderstood that then, sorry.
And understand that we're going over all the detail, and if you look at what we're doing before it's finished, you will see hundreds of little tape blotches finishing it off and keeping it stuck throughout the process. I mean, it takes many, many hours to do a good job. And then there's usually minimal touch-up once we pull off the mask. Again, it's like a lot of things. Prep, you know, is what is a successful path to getting a good job. You know, you'll spend hours masking and prepping and 15 minutes spraying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my fancy Dash 9 entire job is masked and painted other than the PR decal. So there was an enormous amount of workmanship put into that.
Yeah, every night we like to cheat a little bit when we can and get away with it.
Well, I hope the guy that did that's still around, because hopefully in the future I'll order one of the Pensy E units.
Well,
yeah, we did a
around, but we have someone who took his place who is and will be around.
We did a tank car, and you were talking about Connie's reverse decaling. I asked her for a tank car with some oil company's name,
right?
But what the decals were 3 layers of decaling on top of each other. So basically there was a black start, so the name was black, and then the red decaling, which was slightly smaller, sat on top of that, so it looked like a drop shadow. Do you know what I'm talking about? Drop shadow. Anyway, and then the third one was a white highlighting of certain letters, and that was a real trip. That was wow. But her decaling is just superb.
Yep, she does a great job. Anyone else have something to say? Or I mean, everyone's welcome to turn on their bike and say a little something. We're getting near the end here.
Well, Jim, this is Ron.
Hello, Ron.
I just wanted to say that DNRG Heritage unit you did for me is really beautiful. And
well, thank you.
Really enjoyed running that around the track along with the caboose and the ratting car. It's been a real neat deal. A lot of people like that.
Awesome. Well, appreciate that. We look forward to hopefully come into fruition that you want to get one of the SD70s here one day.
Well, that would be something that I would sure look at in that S&P heritage that we talked about before.
Yep, I know. So we got you on our radar once it's all coming out and you get to see it. All right, anyone else?
Jim, I'm going to have to say goodbye. The boss called for supper.
All right. Well,
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate having you. Anyone else got the last comment here before we take off?
Yeah, I just really like these sessions. I like listening to you guys, and I get a lot of ideas going.
Well, I agree, and it is popular even amongst the participants who are on right now. And like I've said before, there's a whole lot of people on or that look at these after we post them online and on our website throughout the country and some of the world. So,
hey, Jim, I would just like to say that anybody that paints with a rattle can needs to know that there's two kinds of spray nozzles.
Mm-hmm.
If you get one of those cheap, look at the nozzle before you buy the can.
Yep.
If it's a fan sprayer, you can paint with it. If it's just a little round hole on the sprayer, forget it. Now,
Yep.
if you go to Napa and get that Duplicolor, it'll have a fan sprayer, and you can spray right up to the edge of a line and stop.
Yeah, you can buy those nozzles separately.
Yeah, the nozzles makes a world of difference in how you paint with a can.
That's right.
Keep your hand moving while you're painting.
That's right, and you can see where it's getting wet.
Yep.
And then you just keep your wetness going. But if you have a round blob like just the old cheap can with that round hole and the sprayer, it just comes out as a round blob.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Learn that the hard way. Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's why you need to let us paint for you. And we'll all right. Well, it's been great having you all again here Thursday on November the 2020. Coming from Boone's Mill, Virginia. We appreciate you listening to the Titan Talks.
Enjoyed it.
Look forward to seeing you again. We'll post when we're doing it. I'm enjoying it. We're going to try to have another one probably in 2 weeks, maybe 3. We'll see how it times out here. All
Thanks,
right.
Jim.
Y'all take care.
Jim, I had one comment.
Yes, Perry.
I wasn't at the last Titan Talk, but I did watch it.
Yes,
and
sir.
You talked about not using your train cars for hauling like ballast because you don't want to ruin them. And what I did is built a plywood liner to go in our hopper cars so you can haul ballast with it and then pull the liner out when you're done.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. You might be seeing us putting that online here. I mean, I tend to know everything, but now I know even more. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks again, Jim.
Thank you. Y'all
Thanks, Jim.
You take care, Miles. We'll see all of you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There. Bye-bye.